Hi, Professor Murphy. My name is Jordan Brown, and this is going to be my correctional facilities oral presentation. And it's basically just going to be a summary of all the papers that I've written throughout the course. For the description of my facility, it's going to be a medium security facility or a level 2 facility. It's going to be placed in Charlevoix County, Michigan, which is on the western side of the state. The city that it'll be in is called Norwood. It has a population of about 142 people, so it's a pretty small town. And most of the towns that are neighboring it are also pretty small. It's a rural area, as you can tell from the aerial shot. It'll be placed somewhere around here, which is about 6,000 feet from Lake Michigan. And it has a main interstate, Interstate 31, which is right here. It runs all the way up and down the western side of the state. So that makes it useful if you have to transport prisoners or food or supplies or materials or whatever. It makes it easy to get to and from the prison. My prison population will be made up of adult male prisoners. The capacity will be 800 prisoners. And the inmates who are in my facility will have committed moderately severe crimes such as robbery, assault, drug crimes, possession with intent to sell, things like that. There'll be a thorough intake process. It'll be complete with fingerprinting, strip searching, drug testing, psychological testing. They'll be showered. They'll be given their hygiene products. They'll be put in the computer. They'll be giving housing suggestions and work detail assignments and maybe programming if they're eligible for that. The pre-sentence report should list any family history, medical history, educational history, or gang affiliations, or anything that needs to be known by prison administration. With the architecture of my facility, it'll be pretty standard. We'll have an east and west housing unit. It'll be dormitory style with 2 floors. There'll be a day room, kind of like what I have pictured right here. And the model that I'm implementing is a direct supervision model, which is there's a control pod right here and an officer sits in it right here among all the inmates. Makes it really cuts down on incidences because there's greater surveillance implementing a model like this as opposed to an officer not being present. It can be dangerous, obviously. You can tell the officer is somewhat vulnerable right here, and he's greatly outnumbered. But the belief is that since it's a medium security facility, that the inmates aren't as dangerous as would be, maximum security. So there shouldn't be any cause for concern, but there always is. The cell doors will be locked and unlocked from a control room. There'll be a chow hall. There'll be a solitary unit. There'll be a visiting room, and there'll be a plexiglass divider in the visiting room to protect visitors from the inmates. And obviously, there will be cameras everywhere. They surveil every aspect of a prisoner's life, and they really help to maintain the security of a facility. The perimeter fencing will be made of concrete and rebar. Second fence within that one will have double chain linking and buffer fencing. The magnetometers and fiber optics will be placed in the fence to detect any vibrations. Should anyone be trying to escape or anything like that. There'll be gun towers like I have pictured here at every corner of the perimeter. They'll have officers on it with firearms and spotlights, and it'll be 360 degrees right here on the catwalk. The vehicle inspection area, like I have pictured here within the 2 fences, for vehicles that are leaving or coming into and leaving the facility will be inspected. There'll be a pit area where an officer can walk underneath the vehicle to check underneath it. I remember that one case we were talking about in the course where the food worker helped that inmate escaped in a food cart. Obviously, that was probably checked. They had a pit area at that facility, but they obviously didn't check the food container since that's what he was hiding in. And we'll have a yard area for recreation for the prisoners. Many security measures will be put in place. Many I've already mentioned, but others would obviously be their equipment, their tasers, their radio, their keys, riot shields, chemical agents in case of a riot, maybe pepper spray, firearms as well. A logbook is crucial to maintaining security. It allows everyone to keep track of what's going on. As we've read in New Jack, sometimes he's unaware of who's keep locked and why they're keep locked, and all these things that you need to know about from the previous shift could really set things off in a facility if someone forgets to log something crucial. Also, all the materials and tools need to be logged for and accounted for. because if they get into the wrong hands of prisoners, that could be a serious security concern. There'll be a CERT team, which is a correctional emergency response team, like I said, in case of a riot or something, an emergency of some sort. A tool control manager to keep track of all the tools in our facility if it's being worked on or construction is being done. Hacksaws and things like that. Obviously, those would could get in the hands of prisoners, and that could be very dangerous as well. And in this day and age, cybersecurity is very important. Maintaining a good cybersecurity network for the prison computer system to make sure that no one can hack into it and steal information. Um, the employee roles and responsibilities, there's a lot of different branches. Obviously, the warden is in charge of the facility. They oversee most of the day-to-day operations. They also hire all their subordinates that are directly beneath them. The deputy warden would take the place of a warden should he not be able to do his job for whatever reason. And the different branches that I have mentioned, the first one would be facilities maintenance. That's basically they keep track of custodial work and groundskeeping and everything like that that needs to be done on the grounds. Um, Prisoner services would be like the food services, the food workers, the medical services, nurses, doctors. Educational services like the teachers, and chaplain would be obviously the chaplain. Um, Security personnel would be all the officers. I have the chain of command kind of listed right here with the lieutenants, sergeants, and the other officers and the different roles that they would play and different stations they would work at. There'd be solitary officers or CERT officers. There'd be tower officers, or yard officers, transportation officers, and visiting room officers. So there's a lot of different positions it could be in. And the administrative branch, that would be like the finance department, which would control the budget and payroll, human resources, which would be in charge of hiring and firing officers, and material management, which would obviously keep track of materials and things in the facility. There'll be multiple prisoner programs in my facility. Main three would be education and vocational training. It's been proven that it's very beneficial to have educational and vocational training in a facility. One particular study I have says that there's a 43% lower chance of prisoners returning to prison if they participate in educational programming. Also, it would save $5 for every dollar spent on reincarceration. And secondly, cognitive behavioral therapy. It works to try and change the behavior of prisoners so that when they leave, they're less inclined to commit crime. It changes their thought processes, which will then hopefully change their behavior. That's been shown to be pretty effective. It can lower recidivism rates 25 to 35%. And third, work assignments. That could be work details in the prison, like porters who do custodial work, laundry, heating and cooling work. That would be the operational assignments. Prison industry or private industries that hire prisoners to do work for them. Could be consulting firms or universities or construction firms. Any private companies that is willing to hire prisoners, but they would work from usually behind bars. I've saw one picture of like a call center set up within a prison where the prisoners are working for a private consulting firm and taking calls and placing calls for them. And finally, community projects. That would just be off-site work, anything that needs to be done in the community, like fixing public property or road signs or something like that. That would mostly be off-site. And that's a great way, just like vocational training, for prisoners to gain real-life skills that they can use in the real world once they leave prison. There are many future problems that could exist. Overcrowding is obviously one. We'd have to be equipped with military style bunk beds should this happen. We may have to bunk up in the cells. If that doesn't work, we may have to bunk up, like in a chow hall area or some area like this. Obviously, this is a bad situation. If it gets so bad, we might have to talk to other facilities about transferring prisoners. And we always have to make sure there's enough food and enough materials for all the prisoners to be not to be cruel and unusual punishment. And contraband is obviously an ongoing problem in many facilities. One way to combat this is just to be proactive in hiring people, making sure that we have strong hiring standards and that we're hiring the best of the best ethical officers. It's obviously easier said than done sometimes, But having riot gear and riot protocol can also help to, if in case there's emergencies, so that everyone knows what they're supposed to do in a situation like that. These are just some of the problems that could come up in the future. And finally, the daily function of a prison is just to oversee inmate conduct and keep them in the prison. They should prevent escapes, they should prevent fights, contraband, and death. Every aspect of a prisoner's life should is surveilled, and security is the main priority because if security is lost, there's a higher likelihood for escapes, fights, contraband, death, things like that. So basically, just keeping the bad guys locked up and out of society. It goes back to the goals of prison, which are to punish, to make sure that prisoners get what they deserve for the things that they've done in society, to incapacitate them or prevent them from committing further crimes, to deter them, make sure that they're less likely to incline or less inclined to commit crimes, and obviously to rehabilitate them, which would be to change them and make them different people. Much easier said than done. But that pretty much wraps it up for my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and have a good week. Thank you.